I'm standing right outside of the European Parliament in Brussels, where Jewish leaders from communities from all across Europe have gathered here in order to form the first ever Jewish European Parliament. They've united here and now in order to form change in the Jewish world and to bring Jewish-related issues onto the political agenda. Take a look.
In the command center of pan-European politics, the European Jewish Parliament convened for a second day. At the European Parliament, panel discussions were held on the economic crisis in Europe and its impact on extremism, populism, and anti-Semitism. Dr. Antonia Parvanova, a member of the European Parliament from Bulgaria, moderated.
I'm very glad that the European Jewish Parliament now is coming here to discuss and to propose ideas of what we should do in a positive and sustainable way to develop tolerance, but also to cope with intolerance.
Parvanova says she and her colleagues are aware that baseless hatred for Jews is rearing its ugly head again in violent acts, in anti-Israel sentiment, and in politics.
We have been detecting rising anti-Semitism in Europe for many years, and the most alarming for me is the recent developments of elections, for example, in France, when we have more stronger support for nationalists, or even in Greece, when we have a neo-Nazis in the parliament.
The president of the European Jewish Union, Igor Kolomoisky, was the guiding light behind the first ever parliament for Jews. And forging ties with other European leaders is one of its priorities.
We are aware that there are not just Jewish politicians which support our cause across Europe. There are many good friends of Israel. For instance, there is the European Friends of Israel in the European Parliament. It's an initiative which started a couple of years ago.
I hope it will be a beginning of good cooperation between the communities, between the different Jewish organizations in Europe, and between the our organization at the Jewish Parliament and the European government and the European organization that may help us to provide some solutions for problems that existing in the Jewish life and in the global life of Europe.
It's absolutely incredible because first it happens for the first time in the European history, and it's absolutely definitely needed because all Jewish organizations could speak in one voice. This makes them stronger, and they could present their priorities, their problems, their demands and proposals to the European institutions. This is the easiest way to collaborate with the European Parliament.
Celebrations of the inauguration of the newly formed parliament took place in a gala event in downtown Brussels.
The European Jewish Parliament is modeled on the European Parliament. Its members are also elected directly by the people based on their individual merits. Now, that's different than how Jewish leaders across Europe are often chosen, which is usually by people inside existing organizations. The European Jewish Parliament hopes in their system to attract young, unaffiliated Jews with fresh ideas.
I am a young professional. I have traveled a lot. I have benefited from every country where I lived. And I think my main goal is to try not to reproduce, but to establish the same strength as the Jewish young leaders in America, in Israel, and or in South Africa, where I have been as well, in France.
Across approximately 50 countries. And the people were elected by Jewish community in Europe. So more than 400,000 people voted to elect their own representative. And the number of parliament depends on the importance of the Jewish community. For instance, in France you have 9 or 10 members, and in other countries where the Jewish community is smaller, you have 1 member.
Now, what is the role of this gathering, this parliament?
Well, it's very broad, you know. Among them, it's to promote the Jewish value, and it's to take care about the concern of the Jewish community in Europe. For instance, anti-Semitism or the delegitimization, the growing delegitimization of Israel in Europe.